This is the M3 MacBook Air, and it's going on about 6 months since its release. So in this video, I'm going to discuss if it's worth buying the M3 MacBook Air right now or waiting for the M4 model, because we know when that is coming. And by the way, right now you could get this for only $850 on Amazon, which is a killer deal, which definitely changes your decision on if you want to buy it right now or wait. And we just had a huge report from Mark Gurman that said that new MacBook Pros, Mac Minis, and the iMac are coming at the end of this year, but not the MacBook Air, because we are expecting that in the spring of 2025 next year. So let's talk about this right here. The MacBook Air has always been a very reliable Mac to buy, probably one of the best value laptops, especially at such a low price, because you're getting the incredible Apple Silicon now with the M3 chip. It's been going really well with the M1, with the M2, and the M3 is quite a lot better than the M2, which had a lot of issues with efficiency. It wasn't that good with the previous 5nm tech. Now we have 3nm. It's more efficient. The battery life has improved compared to the last one. And overall, it's just a killer laptop. Very, very snappy. It performs very well. But the main thing that's changed in 6 months is what else has popped up on the market. We know that we now have the new Qualcomm Snapdragon X chips on the market with some very good laptops at very good prices. We also have the new AMD chips that just launched, the Ryzen 365 and the HX 370. Those are very good, but the battery life on those is not great. So this right here is still the battery life king. And with that sale on Amazon, it's still the value king. So it's a killer laptop to buy. The only problem is that it hasn't really changed for the last couple of years. We still have the same design as we have on that M2 MacBook Air. Of course, we have the 15-inch model, but honestly, it's not that big of a deal. We do have the new MacBook Pros, which I personally like because of the displays. First of all, the displays are much better in terms of reflectivity. We have 120 Hertz, which is the biggest deal to me. I love ProMotion on my phone, makes everything super smooth. We unfortunately don't have that with the MacBook Air, and that's probably its biggest downside compared to the new Qualcomm Snapdragon X laptops that popped up. They go down to about $1,200, $1,300. Very good price, but we are not seeing them on sale as good as this laptop, so it's still an incredible value. Now, in terms of what's coming with the M4, that's what might get a lot of you guys to wait, because we are expecting a couple of really big differences compared to this model. First of all, that M4 chip is going to be the second generation at TSMC N3E node, which means it's going to get more efficient. It's going to get better overall. And Apple actually had a couple of secret changes on the M4 chip that they didn't reveal when they released the iPad Pro. First of all, the new M4 chip has 4 Thunderbolt controllers compared to only 2 on the M1, M2, and the M3. That's actually a big deal, because that could allow Apple to finally add more ports to the MacBook Air, which of course you guys know this one is very limited, only 2 Thunderbolt ports with the MagSafe and the headphone jack. That's unfortunate because it means you basically can only support 2 external displays, but you actually have to close the lid down and use it in clamshell mode to get the other 2 displays to work, which is kind of funny. And thankfully with the M4 chip, Apple actually is upgrading the display engine as well, making it bigger, which makes me think it's gonna support at least 2 external displays without having to close it down, so you can have 3 at the same time. That's a pretty big deal that we should be getting with the MacBook Air. Of course, we're gonna get a huge boost in performance, about 20% for single core, 21% for multi-core. That's gonna help with snappiness, web browsing, common general apps. They're all gonna work very well. But on the graphics side, it's only around up to 10% faster, because Apple clocked the GPU cores 10% faster, so you're getting that gain from there. No changes in GPU cores like we saw with the M4's actual E-cores where they added 2 more. That's actually a pretty big deal. So graphics won't be that big of a difference, at least for the M4 MacBook Air. But where I do think it's gonna make a huge difference is actually in battery life. I believe that the new M4 MacBook Air coming next year in the spring is gonna have a nice boost to real world battery life. Why? Well, because as we saw with the iPad Pro, the M4 chip in the base model only comes with a 9-core CPU with only 3 performance cores compared to the original 4 that's built into every M1, M2, and M3 chip. They're now finally binning the P cores. That's a big deal because if you take one P core away, it's gonna be more efficient. You're not gonna use as much power. And instead of that, they decided to add 2 more E-cores. That is a really big deal for battery life because you're going from a ratio of 1-to-1 P-cores and E-cores now to 1-to-2. Instead of having 4 P-cores and 4 E-cores, you now have 3 P-cores and 6 E-cores. Yes, double the E-cores compared to P-cores, which means the E-core cluster can handle more tasks by itself without having to power on the performance cores. That's gonna lead to a pretty big battery life boost, even if they don't even touch the battery itself within the MacBook Air. They can keep it all the same, and there we go. Now, another big deal is that Mark Gurman said that at least one of the M4 Macs is getting a pretty significant design change while the rest of them are not. So what if that design change is coming to the M4 MacBook Air? What if we actually get something like Face ID finally built into the MacBook Air? That's gonna actually be very nice, but the thing I'm really excited for is actually the RAM, because I believe we're going from 8 gigs of RAM on the base M3 MacBook Air up to 12, because people looked at the M4 chip built into the iPad Pro and they discovered that it actually has 2 6GB RAM chips instead of 2 4GB RAM chips like before, but Apple is secretly kind of shutting it down or closing it from 12 to 8 and not really telling anybody. So I believe in the MacBooks, they're gonna come with 12 gigs standard, and that's a really big deal because that's 50% more RAM at the base price. That's a huge deal for productivity and Chrome tabs. Everything else, that's gonna help a lot with, let's say, photo editing and just general multitasking is gonna be a lot better. So with that said, when the M4 MacBook Air comes out next year, it is definitely gonna be a better value than all of the other Windows laptops coming out right now with the new chips, because it's gonna get a significant upgrade all around. But what you do have to have in mind is that, first of all, you have to wait until next year, and the price is gonna be back to MSRP, at least $1,099. Who knows, they might even jump it up to $1,199, basically $1,200 because of the extra RAM. That is a lot more money than $850 that you can buy this M3 MacBook Air right now. So with that said, I actually believe buying this right now is a great choice. It's an overall great laptop, killer price, definitely a lot cheaper than all those new laptops coming out right now on the Windows side. It's reliable, it holds its value. You can't go wrong with this M3 MacBook Air. They solved all the keyboard issues. The keyboard's great, trackpad's amazing, display still looks great. Even though it doesn't have 120 Hz, it's still a great display. Webcam, microphone, speakers, everything all around is basically the most well-balanced package that you can buy right now. And for $850, I would definitely recommend it to anybody looking right now. So with that said, hopefully you enjoyed this 6-month review of the M3 MacBook Air. And if you did, let me know your thoughts down below. Definitely subscribe above and check out one of those 2 videos right over there. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.